Are you tired of the 9 to 5 grind? Imagine making money while you sleep, traveling the world and having time, location and financial freedom. Airbnb might just be your golden ticket to escape the rat race. In this video, I will show you why Airbnb is the perfect fit for you to leave the 9 to 5 behind forever. I'm Tawin Tlangano. I've been an Airbnb host for exactly 1,825 days. That's 5 full years of hosting. In that time, I've built a portfolio of 13 properties, 6 which I personally own, worth £2 million, and 7 which I rent out from landlords and sublet on Airbnb. After 5 years of learning, making mistakes, and refining my systems, I'm going to share with you every single thing I've discovered that can transform your financial future. I will cover the strategies that allow me to quit my job, the exact systems I use to manage multiple properties with minimum time investment. I'm talking 30 minutes a week I manage my properties, and the mindset shift that made it all possible. If you stay until the end, I will share my 3 biggest mistakes that's cost me thousands and thousands of pounds so you can avoid them completely. If you book a call with me using the link in the description, I will give you my free property calculator spreadsheet that helps me determine if a property will be profitable before I invest in it or if it's not going to be a good deal. Let's dive into it. 5 years ago, I was exactly where you are now. I was working a soul-crushing 9 to 5 job, living paycheck to paycheck and dreaming of financial freedom. I had all the fears you might have right now. No money to invest in property, no time to manage a side business, no confidence that I could actually succeed, fear of taking risk and potentially losing everything. My turning point came when I calculated how many more years I would need to work before I retire. The number terrified me. I realized I needed a vehicle that could generate me passive income consistently and scale over time. In 2018, I moved to Glasgow from London. I used to rent this 2-bedroom flat, which you can see on the screen, as an Airbnb during the weekend when I go down south to visit my girlfriend. This proved that this model works because every weekend this property was being fully booked. I was making income which was paying for the rent. So basically I used to live in this flat for free. When I saw this working, we had a bit of money saved up. Me and my partner, we decided to buy a property in Birmingham. That was our first ever purchase. Now 5 years later, we own 6 properties and 7 which are rented from landlord. All these properties generate over 15,000 in monthly profits, completely passive. But here is what I want you to understand. The biggest obstacle wasn't money, wasn't time or knowledge. It was my mindset. I had to overcome the limiting beliefs that kept telling me this won't work, you don't know enough, you can't afford to take the risk. All these were in my head. Let me share with you the perspective shift that changed everything for me. Instead of asking, can I afford this? I started asking, can I afford not to do this? When I calculated the cost of staying in my job for the next 40 years versus taking a calculated risk for potential freedom, the answer became clear. So why Airbnb specifically? Why not the traditional buy-to-lets of rental properties or other investment vehicles? The math simple works better. Let me break it down for you. For a typical 3-bedroom property in the UK that I might pay £1,000 per month to rent, I could rent it out on the traditional routes, on the traditional buy-to-let for £1,300 per month. That's making me £300 per month monthly profit. Or you could list it on Airbnb for an average of £100 to £150 per night. Let's do an example with occupancy of 60%, that's £1,800 per month, which is equal to £800 monthly profit after expenses. That's nearly 3x the return with Airbnb. But the benefits go beyond just higher returns. Number 1, let's talk about the flexibility. If you want to use the property myself, I simply block the dates and I can use the property myself. Number 2, lower risk. If the market changes, I can quickly adjust my prices or switch to longer term rentals if I'm using it already as an Airbnb. Number 3, scalability. I can use the profits from from one property to fund the next deal, the next property. Number 4, low barrier to entry. You can start without buying a property, but while using the rent-to-rent model, you rent out a property from a landlord, then you sublet the property on a nightly rate. Now, let's address some of the concerns you might have. Isn't the market saturated? Yes, in some areas, but the key is choosing the right location with high demand and limited supply. I will show you exactly how I research potential areas in a moment. Don't you need special permission? This varies by location or the actual country you're in the United Kingdom. In many parts of the UK, you can host up to 90 days per year without special permissions. Only in Scotland, you need a license to rent out at the current moment. In England, you don't need a license. I'll cover the compliance aspects in detail later on, or maybe I will create another video to go into it. Isn't it a lot of work? It can be if you do everything yourself, but I have developed systems that allow me to work less than 30 minutes per week managing all the 13 properties which we have. I'll share my exact process shortly. There are 2 main approaches to building an Airbnb business. This means either you rent out a property from the landlords and you sublet them on a nightly rate on Airbnb, Booking.com or other various booking platforms, or you can purchase the property. But the most common one is the rent-to-rent model. Number 1, you find a suitable property. Number 2, you negotiate with the landlord for permission to sublet it. Number 3, you sign a lease agreement, ideally for 3 years or even 5 years. Number 4, furnish and prepare the property nicely to a high spec. List and manage it on Airbnb, Booking.com or other various platforms which you can use. The good thing about this is low capital to start off with. You can typically start with £5,000 to £6,000. Another advantage of this is quick scaling. So you don't need any mortgage, you don't need large sums of money, and this is a low risk. You can exit the lease if necessary because you'd have put clauses in the lease to allow you to exit. Just like everything else, there could be some cons with this. The cons about this model is low profit margins, no property appreciation because you don't own the property, dependent on the landlord's relationships. So there is a huge landlord input on this. So the other way is purchasing a property specifically for Airbnb. So we've actually done this, bought 6 properties and all of them are on Airbnb. So you need a large sum of money to purchase these properties, but we buy, refurb and then refinance these properties. So it means the large sums of money which you put in there, we can actually take them out and reinvest into the next deal. The advantages of this is it's got high level of capital appreciation, and you need to be qualified to get a mortgage. You need a good credit checks, etc. But this is a higher risk if you don't know what you're doing. I recommend starting with the rent-to-rent model to learn the business, generate the cash flow, and then transition into buying properties. Because when buying properties, you need to be well educated with this model. Let's talk about finding the right properties. This is where most people go wrong. They choose properties based on what they like, rather than what the data tells them. Here's my exact process of how I find properties. So step 1, market research. I use tools to identify high performing areas. So I use tools like AirDNA, which is a paid tool, but it shows you the occupancy rates and average nightly rates. I use Airbnb itself to conduct my own research. So I act as a booker, like I'm going to that specific area. You can use Google Trends, Booking.com or various booking platforms. You act as a booker, then you analyze the market in your specific area. I look for areas which are busy all year round, not just seasonal areas. I don't like areas which are busy for the summer and quiet in the winter. So I also look for areas with proximity to attractions, business centers, transport hubs, hospitals or key landmarks. Step 2 is property selection. The ideal properties are bigger properties. Gone are the days where 2 bedrooms used to work, 1 or 2 bedrooms used to work. Right now, people are attracted to bigger properties, 3 bedrooms plus. If you got a 3 bedroom plus, you are in a good place. That's a good starting point. properties which are modern or recently renovated. I mean, parking is very, very good. Parking is an advantage. Properties with good natural light, quiet location, and it's got a lot of amenities inside them. Step 3 is financial analysis. This is crucial. I never proceed to do any deal without running the numbers through my calculator, through my spreadsheet. For each property, I estimate the nightly rate by the projected occupancy rate. Obviously, then you need to minus the rent or mortgage, the utilities, the service fees, the cleaning, the management, all these things, you need to minus them because you will be paying those things monthly. And if you minus that, you will get what they call profit. I only proceed if the projected profit margin is at least 40% after all expenses are paid for. But if you're starting off, you can lower the projected profit margin to at least 30%. Step 4 is approaching landlords for the rent-to-rent property deals. When approaching landlords, I present my track record as a responsible operator. I call it the safe pair of hands. The landlord wants to know, is their property with a reliable operator? That's the benefit to them. Believe it or not, landlords are greedy people. They only think about themselves, so everything is in their head. It's like, what's the benefit to me, to them? So you need to present those benefits to them in order for you to get this property. Once you've secured your property, the setup stage is the critical one. Here is where a lot of people enjoy this stage. In my business, this is when I pass everything over to my wife, who does everything from like buying the beds, the decors, like the interior designs. She is the master of that, so I leave it to her. She's professional at doing that. But you want to use neutral colors with bold accents. You want to you don't want to go everything luxury. You want to include local touches for that particular location. The startup costs typically range from, for a 1-bedroom property, you can set it up from 3 to 4K. For a 2-bedroom property, you can set this up from 4 to 6K. For a 3-bedroom property, I always suggest 6 to 8K. Have that in your budget. So if you hear someone saying you can set up this property with zero, no, that's not true. You actually need money to set up the property. After you set up the property, you want to hire a professional photographer who's going to take professional pictures. Professional pictures can increase bookings by up to 40% or even 50%. Third thing you want to do is pricing strategy. I use a dynamic pricing tool like Price Labs, which automatically adjusts prices based on the day of the week, seasonality, or if there are any local events which are happening in that particular area. And also, it looks at your competition. It looks at the competition, how much are they charging, and where can you break the market. My general rule is start with 20% below the market rate to build reviews quickly, and you can gradually increase your prices. Step 4 is listing optimization. The key element for a high converting listing, you need to have a benefit focused title. You can see all the titles which I've used in my properties or what they look like. The first 2 or 3 sentences that address guest needs. You need an honest descriptions of any limitations, clear house rules. This is the most valuable part, how to make this truly passive. When I started, I was doing every single thing myself, working 80 plus hours a week. Now I spend less than 30 minutes weekly overseeing all the 13 properties in the portfolio. Here is my exact system, how I do this. So number 1, having a defined and a clear team structure. So we've got cleaners which you hire, we've got a cleaning company which you hire, we've got maintenance person on a call every time if something breaks down. We've got a virtual assistant in the Philippines to help with guest communication, and I've got my wife who's the operations manager of the business. The technology stack, all the technology softwares which we use for this business, we use like a property management system, we use Hostaway, some people call it channel manager, which syncs calendars across all platforms like guest communication, automated messages. So Hostaway does all that. We also have self-check-in log boxes and smart locks on the doors. So the smart locks, like we send the code to the guest, and they, with that smart lock, they can enter the properties in and out. We've got noise monitoring devices so to reduce like party properties or complaints. We've got ring door systems, ring door on all the doors of the properties, so we can see if the exact number of people who booked are going in the property, because you don't want like problems where 2 people have booked and 50 people appear in the property. For things like accounting, we use basic Excel spreadsheets for tracking our finances. So good thing as well, my wife used to work in the finance industry, so she handles all that and we send everything to our accountant. Another important step is having standard operating procedures. So we've created SOPs for all our cleaning sessions between our cleaners coming in and the guests leaving, for all the maintenance issues, guest communications, emergency situations. We've got SOPs over that. We've got standard operating procedures. You know, with quality checks as well, because some of the properties we live close by them, so we can randomly go there. If there's a checkout, if the cleaners have been and they've done everything, we can randomly go there and check if everything is up to date, if everything is being done correctly. And when it comes to financial management, I track the key metrics, only the metrics which matter. These are like the revenue per property, the occupancy rate, the average daily rate, the net profit margin, the maintenance cost if there was any maintenance done at that property. Now let's talk about scaling. Here is the roadmap I followed and I recommend for you to scale. Phase 1 is proof of concept, is between 1 to 2 properties. So you focus on learning the systems, you build your guest reviews on Airbnb, booking.com, you test all the processes which you've created. Phase 2, when you go to 3 to 5 properties, here you want to refine your systems. You want to build a team. Even in 1 or 2 properties, you still need a team. You know, you still need cleaners, maintenance people, but you want to be creating stronger SOPs because you've got like more properties now. Phase 3, 6+ properties. You want to delegate almost every single thing. You don't want anything on your desk. The most important thing which you're focusing on is raising finance and finding the next deal. But business operations, the beauty of this business is that it compounds. Each property generates profit that can fund the next one. I started with 1 property. 5 years later, I have 13 properties in the portfolio, 6 of which I own and 7 which I rent out from landlord. As promised, let me share my 3 biggest mistakes. Number 1 was not starting sooner. I wasted years thinking I needed more money or knowledge to start this business. Number 2, not having proper system from the beginning cost me countless hours. Not raising my prices sooner. I left thousands and thousands on the table by undercharging. If you're feeling the way I felt 5 years ago, trapped in a job, uncertain about our financial future, having kids but you can't put food on the table for them, or you're simply wanting more freedom, more location freedom, more time freedom, remember that 1,825 days ago, I was exactly where you are. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't luck or special connections. It's simply taking that first step and committing to the journey. If you found value in this video, drop a comment with your biggest takeaway or question, and I will personally respond to everything in the comment section. If you are serious about starting your Airbnb business and you've got 5 to 10,000 pounds saved up and you can take a property tomorrow or today, book a call with me. The link is in the description. Thank you for watching this video. I will see you on the next one.